Hello, adult artists. I wanted to take a minute to give you a preview of art class and provide you with some helpful tips to being prepared for class. So in this class this week, we're going to be building a sandwich. So I have all of my ingredients here for my sandwich. And so we're going to need some construction paper to do that. And I'm going to show you how we're going to finish this as well. So there's kind of a list this week. So let me show you this list. The artwork that we're going to be creating is inspired by the artist Klaus Oldenburg, who is a pop artist and does lots of sculptural pieces. So we'll look at his work as well. So here is our list. You can see first thing there is a placemat. I'm going to show my camera here so you can see the materials that I collected. So I have my placemat because we are going to be doing some gluing. The next thing on our list is a pencil that we might need that for some drawing part. We're going to also draw with a lot of crayons too. So pencils are good too. And then I do have a list of construction paper pieces. So 2 white, then a brown, pink, green, yellow, and a red. Those are all for the ingredients inside, and the 2 white are for the top and bottom bread piece. So we need to have 2 of those. I chose 6 by 6 to try to make it easy, and that way your kiddo has some room for creativity. They may not use every bit of that, but the goal is to use as much of that as possible. And then the probably most challenging thing I'm going to ask for this week are spacers. Now, there's nothing important or nothing crazy about these. You could use little bits of foam. You could bubble wrap. You could use bottle caps. I collected a bunch of bottle caps that I could use as a spacer in my sculpture. But I think the easiest thing to use is cardboard. So I just ripped a tab off of a box that I had here at home. And as the adult helper, I'm going to ask you to do this step for us. So you're going to take that, and if you cut corrugated cardboard is, created with this corrugated center for structure. So it's hard to cut across the corrugated part. So if you cut with the corrugated part first, and I'm going to cut long strips like this, then after I have a few of those done, I'll come back in and cut them into like square or rectangle chunks. Okay, and you're going to need about 5 spacers, 5 to 6. And I did my spacers, I made them 3 tall. So this is, you're going to need a couple of these. And I didn't do them all the same. So sometimes I use 2 and sometimes I use 3. But if you have about 5 sticks and you can cut them into 4 or 5 pieces each, that will give you plenty of spacers for this project. So that's what I like to do. If you don't happen to have a box, you could do any kind of material that's just a little bit thicker that they can stack and layer. Okay, so those are going to be our spacers for this project. Crayons, I pulled both sets of colors of crayons because I'm not sure what you're going to want to use. So lots of options in crayons is not a bad thing. We're going to need some scissors for cutting and some glue. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to cut each of the shapes out of our sandwich. And again, this is about process, not what they physically look like when they're done. So we're going to ask to cut out round tomatoes. And if our tomatoes are real jagged and sharp on the edges, sometimes our tomatoes get smushed and they might be a little sharper looking. So again, we just want the kiddos to go through the process of cutting and using their tools. So scissors, glue, and then the last thing there is the bread template. So I was going to talk a little bit about this for a second. I have this bread tracer that you can print. And what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your pieces of bread. And if you wanted to do this part ahead of time, because this is sort of one of those things that does make it look more like a sandwich, because it's one of the first things you're going to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brown crayon, and you can do this ahead of time. So you could trace with a pencil the line of the bread. If you're having trouble seeing through to that bottom line, you can always put this like up on a piece of glass. And if you see, like, if I have the light behind it, you can start to see that line a little bit easier. So it's the same idea. So you could put this on a window and trace it. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to go in. And I'm going to just, with a crayon, trace out that shape. And at the same time, when we do this with our brown crayon, we're actually making the crust of the bread too. So it's a decorative part of this as well. And so if that ends up getting to be a little bit thick, that's perfectly fine. And so I was a little thin here, so I might actually thicken that up a little bit there. Okay, so there I have my bread traced. We're going to need 2 of those. So if that's something that you want to do ahead of time with your kiddo, that's great. You can try that. And then all we're going to do is after you're done, you don't need the tracer anymore. We're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut on the outside of our line. So we want to keep that brown line. And if we're not perfectly on the brown line and we have a little bit of white space there, really, it's not going to be a big deal. It's still going to look like a piece of bread and it's still going to be beautiful. So I wouldn't worry too much about perfect cutting. Just that we're having a good time and we're making a piece of bread. Okay. You can always go back and trim those things up. If your artist comes in and they cut too much of that brown off of their shape, then you can simply go back in with your brown crayon and add it back in, okay, to get you that crust part of your sandwich. And then I just wanted to also, before I leave you for the day, wanted to show you a little bit about these spacers and how they're going to work. So when we look at the sandwich that I have started already, I have 1 piece of cardboard already glued down on top of my lettuce piece. You can kind of see it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue stick, and this is how we're going to build the whole thing. I'm going to put some glue on top of my cardboard. I'll put another piece of cardboard on there because I want to create a little bit of space between my layers of my sculpture. And then I have to decide if I want to go 3 high or 2 high. I think since it's my last one, I am going to go 3. So I'm put another spacer on there, some more glue. And then I'll put my final piece of bread on top. Okay, so you can kind of see how cute our sandwiches are in our sandwich sculpture. Ta-da! Okay, so there it is. And I will be creative when I take my picture of this so that you can kind of see all of the good stuff inside my sandwich. So I hope that was helpful for this week. And if you have any questions, always reach out and let me know. But I did want to say thank you to all of my adult helpers for helping us get prepared for art class. We wouldn't be able to do this and do this well without you. So thank you for that. I look forward to seeing all of my young artists prepared here for art class here very soon. See you then.